There are places where people go to escape their past, and then there are places where the past refuses to let them leave. Deep in the mountains, hidden beneath endless pine trees, stood an abandoned hotel called Blackwood Manor. The hotel had been closed for nearly 30 years. Locals said no one had stayed there since the night the owner disappeared. But every winter, a light appeared in one of its windows. The window belonged to Room 13. People who saw the light never went near the hotel, because according to an old legend, if you heard 3 knocks on Room 13, you were never supposed to open the door. Daniel had never believed in legends. He was 27, practical, and desperate for work. So when an elderly man offered him a job looking after Blackwood Manor during the winter, Daniel accepted. The instructions were simple. Keep the electricity running, check the doors and windows, keep the basement locked, and most importantly, never enter Room 13. Daniel laughed when he heard that last rule. "What's inside?" he asked. The old man stared at him. "Nothing," Daniel smiled. "Then why can't I go inside?" The old man's expression changed. "Because something inside may come out." Daniel thought it was just an old man's attempt to frighten him. That evening, Daniel arrived at Blackwood Manor. The hotel looked even older than he had imagined. Broken windows, dust-covered furniture, long corridors swallowed by darkness. And at the end of the 3rd floor was Room 13. Its door was different from every other door. It was black, and someone had carved a strange symbol into the wood. Daniel locked the main entrance and began his first night. He had no idea that he wasn't alone. At first, everything was quiet. Daniel sat behind the reception desk, watching the snow fall outside. 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., nothing. Then, the hotel's lights flickered. Daniel looked up. A cold wind moved through the hallway. He checked the windows. They were all locked. Then he heard it. Knock. Daniel froze. A few seconds passed. Knock. He slowly stood up. The sound was coming from upstairs. Then came the 3rd knock. Knock. Daniel looked at the clock. 3:13 a.m. He remembered the old man's warning. "Never open Room 13." Daniel grabbed a flashlight. He walked upstairs. The corridor was completely dark. His footsteps echoed through the empty hotel. He reached Room 13. The 3 knocks had stopped. Daniel stood in front of the door. Then, something whispered from the other side. "Daniel." His blood ran cold. He had never told anyone at the hotel his name. He stepped backward. The whisper came again. "Daniel." Then the door handle slowly turned. Daniel ran. Daniel locked himself inside his room. He spent the rest of the night awake. At sunrise, everything seemed normal. He convinced himself it had been a dream, until he noticed something on the floor. Snow, wet footprints. They began at the staircase and ended directly outside his bedroom. Daniel followed them, but there were no footprints leading away. That afternoon, Daniel searched the hotel archives. He found an old newspaper. The headline read, "Blackwood Manor owner disappears. Wife found dead." The article was dated 1978. The owner was named Victor Blackwood. According to the article, Victor's wife, Elena, was found dead inside Room 13. But Victor was never found. Daniel continued reading. A small handwritten note had been added beneath the article. "She was not murdered." Daniel frowned. Another sentence appeared underneath. "She was waiting for him." Suddenly, a woman's voice whispered behind him. "Do you know where Victor is?" Daniel spun around. A woman stood at the end of the hallway, pale skin, long black hair, a white dress, and eyes that seemed completely lifeless. Daniel couldn't move. The woman smiled. Then, she disappeared. That night, Daniel decided to leave. He packed his belongings. He reached the front door, but it wouldn't open. He tried again. Nothing. Then the lights went out. From upstairs came a sound, a slow dragging noise. Something was moving across the floor. Daniel grabbed a flashlight and climbed the stairs. The door to room 13 was open. He knew he hadn't opened it. Inside was a small bedroom covered in dust. An old mirror stood against the wall. A wooden chair sat beside the bed, and on the wall were dozens of photographs. Daniel stepped closer. They were photographs of hotel guests. Some were from the 1980s, others from the 1990s. Some were much more recent. Daniel's heart began racing. Every photograph showed the same thing: a person standing in front of room 13, and beneath every photograph was a date. The final photograph was different. It showed Daniel standing outside the hotel. The date beneath it was tomorrow. Daniel dropped the photograph. Behind him, the door slammed shut. A man's voice came from the darkness. "You shouldn't have come here." Daniel turned. A tall figure stood near the window, an impossibly pale man. His clothes looked like they belonged to another century. His eyes were dark, and two sharp fangs appeared beneath his lips. Daniel stepped backward. "Who are you?" The man smiled. "Victor." Daniel remembered the newspaper. "The owner." Victor nodded. "I built this hotel. Why are you still here?" Victor looked toward the mirror. "Because I died here." Daniel stared at him. Victor continued. "My wife, Elena, discovered what I had become. What were you?" Victor's smile disappeared. "A vampire." Daniel tried to escape. Victor suddenly appeared directly in front of him. "You think vampires are monsters because they drink blood," Victor whispered. "But that isn't what makes them monsters." Daniel couldn't breathe. "What does?" Victor leaned closer. "They never die." Victor pointed toward the photographs. "For decades, people have come here. Some were victims, some were hunters, and some—" Victor looked directly into Daniel's eyes. "Were chosen." Daniel ran. He escaped through the bedroom window and landed on the roof. Snow covered everything. He climbed down the side of the building and ran into the forest. Behind him, something moved between the trees. Daniel kept running. Branches scratched his face. His lungs burned. Then he heard Elena's voice. "Daniel!" He stopped. The woman appeared between the trees. Her eyes were glowing red. Daniel raised his flashlight. She smiled. Then her face changed. Her mouth opened unnaturally wide. Two enormous fangs appeared. Daniel screamed and ran. But suddenly, the forest disappeared. He was standing in the hotel hallway again. Room 13 was directly in front of him. The door opened by itself. Inside stood Victor. "There's nowhere to run." Daniel grabbed an old wooden chair and attacked him. The chair broke against Victor's body. Victor didn't move. He grabbed Daniel by the throat. "You want to know why the hotel never closes?" Daniel struggled. Victor whispered, "Because it needs a keeper." He released him. Daniel fell to the floor. Then Victor pointed toward the mirror. "Look!" Daniel slowly looked up. His reflection was gone. Daniel screamed, "No!" Victor stood behind him. "You've been here before." Daniel shook his head. "I've never seen this place." Victor smiled. "You don't remember." He pointed toward an old photograph. It showed a little boy standing beside the hotel. Daniel stared at it. The boy looked exactly like him. Victor spoke softly. "You were brought here 30 years ago." Daniel's memories began returning. A woman screaming, snow, blood, a black door, and a man carrying him into room 13. Daniel suddenly remembered. Elena had tried to save him. Victor had bitten him, but Daniel had escaped. He had grown up without remembering any of it. Victor stepped closer. The curse was never finished. Daniel felt his heartbeat slow, his vision blurred, his teeth began to ache. Victor whispered, "You were never the victim. You were the next vampire." Daniel fell to his knees. Then everything went black. Morning came. A snowplow stopped outside Blackwood Manor. The driver noticed that the front door was open. He entered the hotel. "Hello?" No answer. The reception area was empty. The building looked abandoned. But then he noticed something strange. A fresh candle was burning on the desk. Beside it was a handwritten note. The driver picked it up. It contained only one sentence. "Room 13 is occupied." Suddenly, 3 knocks echoed through the hotel. Knock. The driver looked upstairs. Knock. His face went pale. Then, knock. The clock showed 3:13 a.m. The driver slowly walked toward the stairs. At the top of the staircase stood Daniel. But he was no longer human. His skin was pale, his eyes were completely black, and 2 sharp fangs rested beneath his lips. Daniel smiled. Behind him stood Victor and Elena. Daniel looked down at the terrified driver and whispered, "Welcome to Blackwood Manor." The door to room 13 slowly opened, and from somewhere inside came the sound of a heartbeat. Thump, 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 then silence. Because the hotel had found its new keeper, and every winter, when the snow covered the mountain, a light appeared in the window of room 13, waiting for the next person to knock.